The most interesting trade partner over the next 5 to 6 months. Not even 5 to 6 months, because the season is going to be starting in about 4 months. But the next, big trade partner over this next 2 to 3 month span is going to be the New Orleans Pelicans. And it all rides on who's going to get Zion Williamson. And then, listen, I think either way, the New Orleans Pelicans are going to be better off whether they're able to not trade Zion or whether they are able to trade Zion. Now, here's a few things going against the Pelicans in terms of a Zion trade. Obviously, he's been very injured. He didn't play a single minute last year, and he kind of did the Ben Simmons thing where there were videos coming out about him practicing dunking. There's reports about him flying with the team. Oh, he might be cleared to play. Oh, he might be able to play in the playoffs against Phoenix. But ultimately, and obviously, he did not play a single minute. And I think teams at this point, after watching what happened to the Denver Nuggets with the Michael Porter Jr. situation, there's a lot of teams that are going to be scared to give a young guy with injury history, especially injury history in the league, big money like Zion Williamson is going to be asking for in 23-24. But here's the caveat with it, is Zion already has proved more than what Michael Porter Jr. proved for the Denver Nuggets. Yes, Michael Porter Jr. played well for Denver before he got his contract, but he was not an all-star caliber player that was, dragging his team by their bootstraps to a playoff chance. Michael Porter Jr. was a young player on an already established team with an MVP candidate in Nikola Jokic and very good players around him like Jamal Murray. After he was traded there, Aaron Gordon. It was a good team in Denver. It was not a good team in New Orleans. So that situation, it's comparable, but it's not at the same time. I think another issue for New Orleans is, listen, this team needs a defensive-minded guard. When you look at the guards on this team, it's CJ McCollum, it's Devontae Graham, it's Kira Lewis Jr., and yeah, Jose Alvarado is a defensive-minded guard, but are you going to start Jose Alvarado 70 out of 82 games? I'm not. Yeah, he's a good player. He's a good player, but I'm not starting him. I'm not starting him 70 plus games. I'm not going to give him the Facundo Campazzo treatment. I'm bringing the Denver Nuggets into this conversation again, but I'm not going to give him. I'm just going to leave it there. So you look around the league, and this is another problem that presents itself to the New Orleans Pelicans. I just want you, outside of the Marcus Smarts, outside of the TJ McConnells, and outside of the Patrick Beverleys, I really want you to think for 5 to 10 seconds. Who's a defensive-minded guard that not only is defensive-minded, but also can provide some scoring from the perimeter? Who is it? I mean, exactly. Like, there's not many guys around the league that fit what New Orleans needs. They need a defensive-minded guard who can score, because as much as I've loved watching CJ McCollum throughout his career as a Portland Trailblazers fan, he can't defend the top-tier guys to a level that you need him to if you're in the playoffs. And the other guys around the league that they could add to this team, they don't match the needs of what this team needs. And, I'm not saying that Devontae Graham is a terrible defender, but Devontae Graham is a terrible defender. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, okay, we kind of need something that isn't at a surplus right now. And if there is a guy that fits what we need, it's going to take more than just a injury-riddled Zion Williamson to be able to get him. I don't think if you just called the Sacramento Kings right now, I mean, maybe because the Kings are dumb, they would do this. But if they called the Kings right now, we're like, hey, Zion for De'Aaron Fox straight up, I don't know if Sacramento is just jumping on that deal. Maybe they would, because it's Sacramento. They traded Tyrese Halliburton. I don't know. The only other guy I can think of, and I just thought of him, is Malcolm Brogdon. But Indiana has their own issues with big men right now. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Miles Turner. Goga Batadze looks like the most wasted pick. Oh my God, I hate Goga Batadze's face. Like, I hate watching that guy play basketball. Ultimately, the one move that makes the most sense, and it makes sense for the Pelicans, and it makes sense for the New York Knicks, is to trade Zion Williamson for RJ Barrett. Now, I don't know if it would just be Zion for RJ straight up. I think if New Orleans is cool about this, they could say, hey, we'll give you Zion and the number 8 pick, because they do have the number 8 pick that would have gone to the LA Lakers if they had not made that Anthony Davis trade. So Zion in exchange for RJ Barrett. You put RJ on a team with CJ McCollum, Brandon Ingram, Jonas Valanciunas, and probably filling out the starting lineup, it's either Herbert Jones, Trey Murphy, whoever you want. They probably are signing 1 or 2 more guys in the offseason as well. I think the prospect for the Pelicans is if Zion doesn't work out, and listen, even if he does work out, it's a bleak situation for New Orleans. They're on the books for $120 million already in 23-24. Now, the good part about that is they have 11 guys already signed through 23-24. The only 3 guys who are not signed through that time period are Zion, Larry Nance Jr., and Jackson Hayes. 3 guys who obviously I think they could lose and not be in a terrible situation. I think if New Orleans is smart and cool with the New York Knicks, they say, okay, we'll give you Zion, we'll give you 8 for RJ Barrett, and one of either Nerlens Noel, Mitchell Robinson, Obi Toppin. They need to get at least 2 guys out of the Knicks to be able to make this a good deal for them, if they're also going to give up the number 8 pick. And for the Knicks, I mean, listen, just to kind of illustrate why it's a good move for them. Listen, this team has ran its course. The Julius Randle situation just makes no sense. And it's time to blow up that team, fire the coach, develop. The Knicks never develop. They never develop. They just automatically, nope, we're contenders. They can't do that anymore. They gotta blow that ship up. So let's go ahead and for the next couple minutes talk about what happens if either thing happens. Let's just talk about if a trade doesn't happen and Zion Williamson comes back to the roster this year, plays at an all-star level, and deserves a new contract between $25 to $30 million a year. And that's exactly what he's going to be asking for. There's not the money there for the Pelicans to give him that money. And even if there is the money there, I'm a lot more afraid of giving Zion Williamson a contract than I am of giving RJ Barrett a contract. And it gets even worse if he comes back to the team and he gets injured again. Because not only will it be after an offseason where they already had a chance at trading him, there probably is going to be less suitors for Zion Williamson after another big injury. And there's no way in the world that they're getting somebody even like an RJ Barrett out of a deal for Zion Williamson. So if they're going to do the deal, they need to do it as soon as possible. As soon as they're available to make a deal with the New York Knicks, they need to do it. Because A, it's one of the few trade suitors that makes sense. It'd be one of the few trades in general that makes sense for the Pelicans. And it gets them out of the scary situation of, do we want to pay Zion Williamson $30+ million a year? I think he's talented enough to do it, but I think I'd rather have the New York Knicks do it than I would rather have my team do it. And that's just the way it is. And for the Knicks, like I said, they need to blow it up. And I think Zion Williamson is the perfect guy to blow your roster up around. Because Zion obviously wanted to go to New York. He's been the most disappointed person that New Orleans won that draft lottery in 2018 than anybody else in NBA history. Both sides, it makes sense. Pelicans get out of a scary situation. The Knicks can just blow it up. And the Pelicans, listen, with RJ Barrett on this roster, they become a top 5 team in the West next year. They do. And I'm so excited to see what this team does. If they do the deal or not, I'm still excited for this team. Because I think either way, this team has outs. If they really want to maximize on a possible championship window here, RJ Barrett's the perfect guy. And they need to do the deal immediately, as soon as they're available to.